like lights in the world as you hold on to the word of life. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus told his disciples a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. Why did you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye," when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite! Remove the wooden beam from your eye first, then you will see clearly to remove the splinter in your brother's eye. A good tree does not bear rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For people do not pick figs from thorn bushes, nor do they gather grapes from the brambles. A good person out of the store of goodness in his heart produces good, but an evil person out of a store of evil produces evil. For from the fullness of the heart to the mouth speaks. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
All right. This is going to be my first homily here at St. Mary, Assumption, Whittier, California. So there's a little bit of nervousness taking place. But the gospel today, which reminds me of something that I remember several years ago. Several years ago, I was up in the Dale, Oregon. The Dale, Oregon, they're known for their cherry. Cherry in the Dale, Oregon is a top-notch cherry you can get. Some of the Bing cherry from Oregon, from the Dale, Oregon, is about this size, or some of them even bigger. Well, you're probably wondering why I am doing up there in the cherry orchards. Well, I was up there working with migrant workers. We Redemptorists, we travel up there. We provide First Communion classes, retreat, confirmation to a lot of migrant workers that they migrate along from Bakersfield up to Yakima, Washington to harvest fruit. What I learned from migrant workers is that they taught me how to see which cherry trees are the best, which one will produce the best Bing cherry. At first, I wonder, how can they tell? How can they tell? And years and years of harvesting cherry, they know. They know which tree are going to produce the best cherry. That brings me back to the reading today. Jesus said that every tree is known by its fruit. We can tell the difference between a good tree and a rotten tree by their fruit. Same thing with migrant workers. They can tell which cherry trees will produce a big Bing for that year. But for us, what Jesus is talking is about us as a Christian Catholic. That we who follow Jesus Christ, who is our models, But when we take that image of Jesus into our life, do we actually follow the footsteps of Jesus? Or we actually put up a mask for that appearance? I think to a certain degree, many of us know somebody might do, or even good at it, or even they perfect the technique. Jesus used the image of the tree. A good tree does not bear a rotten fruit, nor does rotten tree bear good fruit. To translate that into daily conversation, I think Jesus is saying that a good person produces goodness. A person who stores up evil, stores up grudges, always judgmental, it usually produces something not so great. Harmful, hurt. But beside that, the quality of the fruit, it also indicates something that who we are. There's the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, there are fruit that we receive from the Holy Spirit. In the gospel, we know a couple of them, but the tradition, I will list out 12 of them that we are commonly, we well known of. Love, joy, peace, patience, long-suffering, goodness, benevolence, mildness, fidelity, modesty, continence, chastity. If we take that from what Jesus was saying, and we see the Holy Spirit dwelling in us, we producing good fruit. I break it up into 3 different groups of the gift, the fruit of Holy Spirit. The first 5, love, joy, peace, patience, long-suffering, it have to do with us, how God takes place in ourselves. When we have God in ourselves, there's a joy, there's a love, there's a peace in us. Along with that, also give us patience. Patient with ourselves, patient with others. But that is when God, Holy Spirit, dwell in us. Well, the next 4, is the fruit, how we dealt with our neighbor. Goodness, benevolence, mildness, fidelity. It have to do how we interact, what is our attitude toward our neighbors. When we incline towards the goodness for our neighbor, that is when we actually help our neighbor in a good way. We have benevolence. We put up with our neighbor, and we don't revenge the people who are unjust to us. Those are the fruit that will blossom in us, how we treat our neighbor. Well, the last 3, modesty, continence, chastity, it have to do with ourselves. Don't you think that sometimes we can be a little bit hard on ourselves? It's about the attitude, how the fruit that take place in us, in ourselves, that deep internal little guy that we refer to. Sometimes we keep him secret or her. We have a discipline for that. So, for example, if we turn up the TV to get some exercise, that means that we are continents. And when we are chastity, when we get ourselves not being tempted by something that is unacceptable or immoral in our life. So in a way, when we look at all the fruit that we see, It's about the action. It's about the action that reveal us. And to be honest with you, action and person, they go together. You cannot say a person and action, they're two different things. They are together. That's how we know the fruit from coming from a good tree. But we take into a larger context. A larger context, a setting, a story of Jesus, the story of the church. When we recognize that we are the disciple of Jesus, who we proclaim, who we use Jesus' example as a model, we are not just talking. It is not a matter of walking and talking. I think it's a talking and walking. When we speak and we act. Some good example, we see something unjust. We just don't talk about it, but we act upon it. Something we need to challenge. We speak of the unjust, we need to challenge the system. We need to encourage the people who are hard downtrodden, that they need to be lifted up. And we need to walk with the people who need to be accompanied, that who need people in their life. So we're not just talking. As the disciple of Christ, we talk, we walk like Jesus. To summarize up, I think is that if we have all the good fruit that I just listed, the fruit of the Holy Spirit, I would say that when we walk out there through that door, many people will recognize us as the disciple of Jesus, as the disciple of Christ. And we, by disciple of Christ, we not just do the walk, but we talk and walk. The action, our action reveal who we are as the disciple of Christ.